You're listening to the Holistic Health Front podcast.
Whether you've already taken steps towards a healthier life,
or you're just starting to explore this path,
this podcast aims to help all of us live longer and more energized lives,
so we can all do the things we want and be the person we know we can be.
We bring on functional health experts, parents, professionals, and everyday people who want to make positive changes in their lives.
And we create powerful conversations about how to feel good in a fun, easy, and understandable way,
so you can live the most fulfilling life possible.
Enjoy today's discussion and let us hear your thoughts in our Powerful People Facebook group.
The information presented in this podcast is not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent, or mitigate any disease.
If you have any questions about your health or the health of a loved one, please consult your healthcare practitioner.
Now let's begin.
Welcome to the Holistic Health Front podcast. How's everybody doing tonight? Let's do a wave. Everybody out there? Yay. So the Holistic Health Front podcast, we are a group of health coaches that have decided to get together and have conversations around everything wellness, health, wellness, and anything in between. We are all integrated nutrition, health, and wellness coaches, and we know that health and wellness is so much more about just diet and exercise. It is the life you lead, the thoughts you have, the connections that you make, everything from your relationships to how your bed is set up in your room. So we like to just discuss all things that are part of our lives, because as health coaches, we strive to make sure that we include all aspects of a person's life. So that's what we do with this podcast. But tonight in particular, we decided to talk about energy. And because energy is everywhere. And I jokingly said, we're going to talk about energy and everything woo-woo. So that leaves us wide open, right? So we can talk about anything we want. First off, who's with us tonight? We've got Courtney joining us. Hi, Courtney. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hi, greetings from St. John. Just a little aside, I'm getting the feather edge of Tropical Storm Felipe right now. So if I lose power, have a good one, guys. And I'll catch you on the next one, but hopefully we'll hold.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
And who else we got? Yeah, Courtney. And who else is joining us? Coach Q, you want to say hello?
Yes, hello. I'm Coach Q, Holistic Health and Wellness Coach from Oakland, California. I am here now in the Bay. It's nice. The sun's out. It's a little breezy, so we're good. No storms on this side.
Awesome. And I am Stephanie Cook. I am a holistic health coach from Iowa, and we have no breeze, we have no rain. We could use a little bit of both, actually. So we've had pretty warm weather up here for September. So we're coming from all over the place, and tonight we're going to talk about energy. And I thought maybe I would introduce the topic just to talk a little bit about my background with energy and a little quick definition of what I think. And then we're going to go around and kind of talk about, what is your definition of energy and how do you define it? And then we're going to talk about different experiences that, each coach might have had with different types of energy modalities. But I'm just going to start with a broad overview. What is energy? So in my definition and in my experience, energy is in everything. We all are energetic beings. Everything in our life has a vibration, whether it's a cup, that you're holding, or a gemstone that you're wearing. I like to wear gemstones. Everything has energy. Our thoughts have energy. Our body has energy. The surroundings around us have energy. Energy is in everything we do, every thought we have, every interaction that we've ever had. And I have been fortunate enough to been trained. I've actually trained in energy medicine. And when I first started doing health coaching, one of the things that I did was I was what was considered an energy healing practitioner. And it's kind of a deceiving word when you say energy healing practitioner, because we actually don't heal anybody. Everybody has that internal mechanism for healing. And what we do is we guide people through different energetic journeys. And one of the things that I was very fortunate to be trained in, I'm trained in a type of energy called UN energetics, which involved understanding all the different levels of our psyche, in addition to understanding how our ancestors carry through our energy, how our past lives carry through our energy. So I had a lot of fun, and still do, working with that. The other thing that I'm trained in is I'm trained in TBM, total body modification. And that involves understanding how energy actually flows through the body. And this has actually been mapped out. Have you ever seen a picture of the meridian lines and how they flow through your body, right? So we literally have energy that flows through our body, and they're not random. There's very specific pathways that energy flows through. And you can have a kidney meridian, and you can have a liver meridian. Coach Q, you were going to raise your hand and say something? No. Oh, okay. I told everybody to give me a little gesture, but so a lot of times everybody thinks that energy can be very random. And it's actually not. It actually has a lot of, especially with the body, it follows, very specific pathways. And if those pathways can become interrupted, you've probably heard of things like Reiki. Reflexology is a great other modality where people actually understand how it, goes through the body. Acupressure, acupuncture. A lot of your massage therapists are trained in different types of energy medicine. But energy, we want to know it's not just about what we're going to talk about with energy medicine, but energy is everywhere. It is literally throughout our entire world, throughout our entire bodies, and throughout our entire existence. And actually, I'm going to kind of narrow in and talk about how we don't give enough attention to energy. We just don't give enough attention to energy. And I always tell everybody, all of us are energetic beings. When you were a little kid, did you ever scrape your feet on the carpet and you shuffled around on the carpet and then you went up and you touched somebody and you shocked them, right? Or have you ever taken clothes out of a dryer and they're static, we call it static clean. There's energy. There's energy in everything that we do. One of my other favorite examples of how we're all energetic beings is how you can take a balloon. When you were a kid, did you ever take a balloon that was blown up and you rubbed it on your head and you could stand it up and the hair would stand up and you could stick it to a wall, and everybody was like, what? My balloon stuck to a wall, right? So we have energy in our bodies, and we not only can transfer that energy to a balloon or shock somebody, with our static electricity, our energy affects everything we do, and other people's energy affects, a room, affects who we are, how we communicate, and things like that. So we're going to talk about just different experiences, but I just wanted to give my kind of broad overview of what energy is and some of the few things that I've been involved in with energy medicine. And now I'm going to just go across and I'm going to ask Courtney. Courtney, share with me, how do you define energy, and what sort of things in your life have you had experience with personally where you would consider that to be considered an energy wellness practice?
I have been using energy as a healing modality for a very, very long time. I guess it must have started a while ago with receiving Reiki treatments and just letting the practitioner channel that energy into my body and let my body use that energy to heal itself. Because I do believe that our bodies know how to heal themselves. We've got this innate knowledge, and it's important that we give our bodies the tools. And sometimes we need some energy work to help shift things and move things. Yeah. And I was so moved by feeling so great and different after Reiki treatments that I became a Reiki practitioner myself.
Oh,
and
wow.
I enjoy being like a helper for somebody to receive that healing modality. I think it's a wonderful use of energy.
Absolutely.
And
it's fantastic.
In high school, I started working with crystals and herbs and tarot cards. All those things are involved energetically and through the ether. And I do have a spiritual practice. I do I know heavily, I lean heavily onto a power greater than myself. I call it source. Yeah. It can be whatever you want to call it in your own life. But I know there is something out there that has my back, and I have deep gratitude for that energy. It's there. I've seen it work. I've been able to dance with it if you will, and make some cool things happen as this energy works through me for my highest and best
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah, there's definitely a powerful source that runs through us. We have energy from the planet. We have energy that extends beyond that. And yeah, working with that is quite fun.
Yeah.
So
Earthing is also something I've just started to get interested in as well. And that's when you walk barefoot on the earth, or, lay your whole body on the earth with as much skin as you can, touching the actual natural earth, the sand, the grass, the rocks, and just getting a wonderful upload from Mother Nature. And that helps to reset your body too. And it just feels wonderful. And people are getting a lot of healing benefits from earthing.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, we talk about how grounding it feels to be outside and calming. And it's because Mother Nature knows what we need, and it balances our energy when we're out there. So
yeah, she's wonderful.
She is. We love Mother Nature. All right, Coach Q, I want to hear from you, honey. Talk about what experience have you had, what exposure, how do you define energy? How does that interact in your life?
Hello, test 1, 2. Can you hear me?
There you go. You just came in.
Awesome. So energy is so big in my life. I haven't had any formal training, but it's like you said, you can feel it. I think we take for granted, like you spoke of, take for granted what we can't see all the time, but it's always there. When you were describing it, I thought of, when you rub your hands together, you can literally feel that ball in between. I'm just like, this is so amazing. It's literally something you can transfer from one hand to another, also from human to human. I highly believe in walking into the room and changing the energy, and it just from the energy I'm, exuding. And I'm never afraid or little nerves or whatnot, but I always know my positive energy is going to shift the room. And I always have that thoughts are energy, right? And I really feel like you can transmute your thoughts. This is the woo-woo stuff, transmute your thoughts and your feelings to other people. I highly believe in someone across the country. I can transmute my thoughts to them. Just focusing on the energy, focusing on the place they're in, and focusing on that person. They feel and then all the time it happens. You pick up the phone and this person that you were just about to call, oh, I was just about to call you. Those little things we don't
connected.
Really, a lot of people don't notice that that's energy transfer. And if we can hone in, if the overall whole of the world can hone in on that, I think it can be so powerful. I was going to also mention the energy of the earth. I do grounding, earthing all the time, and that energy really balances me out physically, reducing stress. And I was just reading, you were talking about the meridian points with the acupuncture. I was reading up on, I think it was type 2 diabetes, where they were recommending acupuncture because it some point in your body is your pancreas. I was like, that is so amazing. If we can just, and it's slowly but surely getting into the health space. It's a slow process, and I love how it's coming along. So that's my experience, and I like to dive deeper. I did do one Reiki session one time in my life, and I want to get more into it. And it was really, it was amazing. I just it blows my mind all the time, but it's also duh, we are energy beings. This is how it's supposed to be and what it is. So.
This episode is brought to you by oxygen and carbon dioxide. Breathe deep, breathe slow. Are you tired of nagging headaches, body pains, and feeling like you've been steamrolled by 2 p.m.? Want to feel more alive with a clearer mind, voice, and skin?
Yep.
And not to mention getting rid of that pesky BO when the deodorant starts to wear off?
Ew.
Introducing to you today, water. Did you know that 75% of American adults are chronically dehydrated? And did you know that majority of people who are dehydrated think that they actually are hydrated? That means most people are not drinking enough water. But if they did, and they realized how much of a massive difference it makes in how they feel to be hydrated, they would realize that water can change their life. So drink more water. Aim for 96 fluid ounces per day minimum for adults. Side effects include peeing more often the first couple of weeks, but don't worry, it will slow down soon. I know I should really drink less caffeine. I just wish there was some way of getting energy in the morning without a coffee. Ah, the sun! Wait a minute. I feel good. Especially when I close my eyes and stare at the sun through my eyelids. Wow, this is great! I think I'm ready to crush this day now. Thanks, sun. The sun. Use it for free, with care. Hey y'all, hope you've enjoyed these goofy little commercials. The information is all accurate and valid, so please use the tips we shared. Even though we're having fun and being silly recording them, they're still 100% meant to support you and entertain you. We'll be getting back to the show in just a minute, but first, I want to really encourage you to join our free community on Facebook. It's called the Powerful People Community, and it's a place where you can interact with other listeners of the show, including me, our other coaches and co-hosts and everybody. And it's a place where you can ask questions publicly or anonymously. You can request episode topics, you can share your story, and celebrate with a group of really amazing people who will also be celebrating you. So we really hope to see you in the community. We think we're building something really special because we believe when you bring together a group of powerful people, there's just so many great things we can do in this world, more than we could do on our own. So we're building a special community and we hope to talk to you there soon. Now, let's get back to the show.
Speaking of energy, I want to share just one quick story. This happened to me on Friday. I did a very early morning snorkel, and I went out into the bay. There are some rocks way out there, and I'm cruising along, and I see out of the corner of my eye, I see a turtle coming up. And I love being in the water with the turtles, and I put my hands on my heart, and I said, I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for sharing your space with me. You know, I love that you're here with me. And she turned and she started to head towards me. She didn't face me face on, but I was looking into her eye. And just as I was holding my heart and just expressing my gratitude for her and feeling this oneness with the ocean and all the creatures there. And we just floated for a while in the water. I have no idea for how long. And it was so profound. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It was just this magical moment with this beautiful creature.
Well, and I think animals are very open to energy, right? They don't have the human ego that tries to figure out what it is. Anybody that's ever had a pet, if you have a pet dog, if you have a pet cat, if you've ever worked with horses, those people will tell you those animals feel your energy and they intuitively know what you need. You know, they intuitively come up next to you and can be protective of you. I grew up with animals and it was always amazing. I have several siblings. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. And if one of the siblings was having a rough day, including myself, or if somebody wasn't feeling well, our dog, her name was Tanya. She was a Norwegian elkhound. And she would go and she would find that person and she would just sit next to them. Like if she knew they weren't doing well, she would not go anywhere else. She would just stay with them until they were better. And my mom would just say every time, she knows that they need that. You know what I mean? That unconditional support, that I've got your back, or whatever it is that the animal is saying. But animals are amazing for helping express. And that's what you, I think, experienced with the turtle, you know, is you reached out to the turtle and the turtle's like, hey, I see you. I feel you, you know. So I think that's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing that. Has anybody had any experiences with animals that they can talk about? No? I have one more that's kind of like Courtney's. So I'd been reading about the hummingbird. And I was reading about the hummingbird and all of what's considered the spiritual qualities of the hummingbird. And this bird had been brought into my life just through some other literature. And I live here in Iowa. There's a cornfield in my backyard, literally, not figuratively, like, there's corn and crops all around. And I'm sitting there. So we don't have a lot of, I'm not in a wooded area or anything like that. And I sat out on my back porch and I had just been reading all of this stuff about hummingbirds. And I don't have a bird feeder or anything like that would attract, the birds. And I was thinking it would be really awesome, to see a hummingbird. They're just these tiny little things and their wings flap like a million times a second, and all of a sudden this hummingbird, I don't, out of nowhere, except my thoughts, right, came right up to me and just hovered for a second right in front of me and said, like, hey, yeah, we're here. We know you're out there. And that was, again, just through thought, like you were describing, Courtney. So I think we are all connected. We are connected to nature. We are connected to one another. I would say that one of my first exposures to that is that I believe prayer is a type of energy. I know all the religions talk about prayer, and when we send our time, when we send our love and attention and devotion and purpose and intention, to another person, I truly believe that they receive that energetically. I truly believe that, regardless of what your religious background is, prayer is a form of that energy connection, that you're sending to others. When somebody actually says, I'll pray for you, and does. And we never call it energy, we call it prayer. But I think if you go back to ancient times, that's what it was. It was an exchange of those thoughts, with somebody that you wanted to connect with, and whether that prayer went to another person or whether that prayer went to, something higher than us, I think that was probably one of the original forms of energy transfer, right? We didn't call it that, but I mean, when you think about what it is, it really is time and attention and intention to something, outside of yourself. So I think that can be a really neat way, because I know some people, especially Coach Q, you said that energy medicine and energy talk is just now becoming popular, right? I've been doing energy medicine since, my son is 21 and I started when he was 2 years old. So 19 years. I've been trained in several different types of energy healing modalities. And back then, nobody talked about it. It was this weird thing. It wasn't mainstream. Even in junior high, my kids were like, Mom, do not talk about that. Like, don't tell people that you do that, And now my daughter, she's 23, and she said that she spent her whole life, embarrassed by the fact that her mom does this woo-woo, right? We call it woo-woo. Her mom does all this weird stuff. And she was telling me just recently, she was in a conversation with a girlfriend, and the girlfriend was talking about Reiki and wanting to see somebody that did energy work. And Annika had mentioned, my daughter had mentioned, my mom does energy work. And the person was like, oh my God, that is so cool. And my daughter was like, no, I've been trying my whole life to not, to not let people know that my mom does that. So I do think there is kind of a comeback, not a comeback, but, an open-mindedness to energy. And I know, Courtney, tarot cards, we had kind of talked about that beforehand. I have done several tarot card readings. Do you know anything about tarot cards? Courtney, do you want to weigh in a little bit about tarot cards and maybe your experience with them?
Yeah, I've had a deck since I was 17.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I carried it around, and I don't play with it very much because I know the power that it has. So when I interact with it, it's got to be for something serious.
Right.
It does come out. We do have these monthly divination play spaces here on St. John, and I'll bring my tarot card deck out for that. I don't really play with it, but I bring it, and it can just soak up all the good stuff. And we have a bunch of different things like runes that we use to divine things. And also we did some melted candle wax in water, kind of like the tea leaves, but we were using melted candle wax. And it's just nice to meet with this group of women and just kind of play. Like, we're not serious about it. We're just having a lot of fun. And it's a wonderful space for people to explore. And anybody who wants to show up can show up regardless of gender. It just happens to be attracting women at this point, but
Right.
hopefully would be
Yeah.
able to expand. But I have had some very interesting experiences with tarot, being spot on. And when I was living in San Francisco, there was this great metaphysical bookshop where you could get anything and everything you wanted to do with magic there. And they had all sorts of classes, and they did have a tarot card class. And I was taking the class, and afterwards, the person leading it pulled me aside and he said, "Why are you in here?" And I was like, "Oh, brother." And he says, "You know all this stuff. You don't need this." That scared the pants off of me.
Oh, yeah.
The pants off of me.
Yes.
And then I remember leaving that class, and the classes were kind of in the back room, and then you walk through the retail portion to get back outside. And I'm walking through, and something pulled my hair straight up like a lock of it. And I've never forgotten that. It's like, yeah, we got you. Let's play.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was pretty cool. So I'm a little timid about the gift because I think very logically, and I need to really like loosen up and let it flow. And those are things that I'm working on personally, because I would really love to be able to use this deck that has been with me since what was it, 1992? I've had it for a very long time. Yeah.
My own personal experience with tarot cards is I've had a couple of readings. I don't have a deck myself, but I've had a couple of readings, and I have always been I've had all sorts of readings. By the way, I'm one of those people that if somebody's doing a reading, whether it's a tea leaf reading or a palm reading or a tarot deck reading, I'm all over it. So, but it's so funny because the second you open yourself up to it, there's so much more out there. So I have kind of an experience. I'm in a bookshop. This is about 15 years ago. And I had been doing wellness work, I want to say about 5 years, and had been doing some energy medicine. And I was in a metaphysical section of a bookstore. Now, the universe has a really fun way of putting you in your place, right? So I see this little old man. He probably looks like he's in his 80s, and he's just kind of shuffling around. And I see him kind of, and he's looking at all the titles, and we're in the metaphysical section of the bookstore. And I can tell he crosses his arms, and he's like, and I think to myself, I'm going to rescue this older gentleman, and I'm going to lead him to the section that he must need to go, because he's obviously confused with all of these metaphysical books, right? So I take it to myself. I said, "Are you having trouble finding something? Can I help you to whatever section, a cooking section or a classics or, a history or anything except metaphysical," right? And the man turns and he goes, "I'm just disappointed. I've read every single one of these books." And I said, "Every one?" He goes, "Honey, I'm 80 something years old. I've read every one of these books." And I laughed out loud. And then he said, "I read palms. Can I read yours?" And I was like, okay, this is weird, right? And I've never had a palm read before. And I'm just now getting into this whole energy medicine stuff. And he grabs my hand and he looks at my palm and he looks at me and he looks at first and he goes, "You spent a lot of your life talking. He goes, "You need to be quiet and listen more. There's some good messages out there." And I'm laughing because I am a very talkative person and I have been known to be overly chatty. So I was like, okay, that's pretty accurate. And then he looks at my hand again and he goes, "Oh, wow. There's lots of people in your family." I'm from a large family. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. My grandmother has 9 siblings. So I have tons of great aunts and uncles and all sorts of cousins. So I am from a big family. But this was the thing that blew me away. He's looking at my lifeline and he looks up at me and he goes, "You have a very, 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 very old soul." And he said it just like that. And I know that was annoying to listen to on our podcast, but he literally said it just like that. And I was like, oh, I'd never considered myself as having a very old soul before. And since then, I have learned all sorts of stuff about things that we bring in from previous lives, things that we pass down, from our ancestors. And I actually started doing energy work. I learned an energy modality where you actually help clear ancestral trauma. And that part is just huge for me. When you can help clear ancestral trauma that gets passed on, through your cellular memory in your DNA. And that's been a really fun thing for me to play with is, working with the energy, not just of your present life, but the energy of your ancestors and maybe even previous lives. So that's just kind of a fun story, of some of the experiences that I've had. Has anybody here ever had an experience with something that's not physical? You can explain it, like we talked about, Coach Q talked about, talking to somebody on the phone and they're saying, hey, I was just thinking about you. Anybody want to weigh in?
That happens to me pretty often. And I in one of the recent situations, I reached out to my friend Deborah. My family was in town and we were all going to the beach, and this thought popped into my head. I bet Deborah would like to join us. So I texted her and I said, hey, we're going to Cinnamon Bay around this time. You want to join us? And she said, I woke up this morning and I sent you a message that I would like to go to the beach with your family today. And I said, I got it.
Yeah. Mothers do this a lot. They call it mother's intuition. Have you ever heard somebody say, I just knew such and such, you know what I mean? And we call it mother's intuition. That's another form of that energetic connection, that we have, to our loved ones. And what was that?
I was going to say, it goes beyond mother's intuition. It's everybody has this intuition. Everybody has it. It's just whether we listen to it.
Yeah. So how would you describe intuition? While we're on the subject, let's just segue into that. How would you describe, Coach Q, how would you describe intuition? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Are you muted? Because we can't hear you. Okay, now give it a try. Oh, I can't hear you at all. I wonder why. It looks like you're muted. Okay, now have you unmuted? Let's give it a try. Yeah, we can't hear you at all. I'm so disappointed.
Oh no, Coach Q, we want to hear you.
Yeah. I wonder why we can't hear her. I can see her. I can see you. I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all. Huh. I wonder why.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know enough about the.
What if you leave and come back? Maybe it's a grand reset. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we can hear you. You're definitely cutting out. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you at all, Q. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very broken up. Unfortunately, it's very broken up. Go ahead and try to talk again. Yeah, now I can. Oh no, you just went out again. Huh. Why don't you try? We can hear you sometimes. Huh. I wonder if you have a bad connection. Oh, there she goes. Hopefully she's going to try to come back in.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I can't wait for Coach Q to jump back in, is paying attention to our thoughts. Our energy follows thought. I tell people this all the time, all of my clients. Energy follows thought. So you really have to hone in to what are you thinking? There's this record player that plays all day long in your head. What is it that you're thinking? What do you think about that, Courtney? Energy follows thought. Have you had any experience with that?
I completely agree. I feel like what you focus on grows. And so if you're focusing on, a stinky situation, you might get more of that stinky situation. But if you reframe that stinky situation instead of being, I can't believe this happened to me, yep, yep, yep. What if you think, okay, so this happened. What can I learn from it?
Right.
And that shifts you. It shifts you in so many ways. It shifts the energy around it. It also shifts you out of a victim mentality. Like, yeah, okay, It happened. It sucked really bad. But what can we do now that we have this knowledge of going on? How can we make this better? Or maybe we can't make it better. We just have to accept it and move on. On the other side of the coin, when good things are happening, it's very important to be gracious, have the gratitude, say, oh my gosh, all these synchronicities happen to me today. So called, and I was thinking about them. I just got a job offer. I just got a raise. When these things happen, I bless them and thank them, because the universe is going to pick up on that vibe of gratitude and joy. And those are higher level emotions. And that's really what speaks with the universe and gets you more of what is happening in your life. It's very fun to play with.
Very fun. And I love that you said those are higher vibration emotions. It's so funny. We know that there are emotions that feel good, and then there are emotions that don't feel good, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we call them bad emotions or good emotions. All of them are wonderful. Every emotion is a part of our compass, right? It's part of our guiding. When we're feeling the bad emotions, that tells us that we're not exactly in alignment with where we want to be, right? And if we're feeling the good emotions, that gives us an idea of where we want to go, right? I always say that your emotions are like your guidepost. But one of the things, Coach Q just tried to join back in.
Oh, good.
Where did she go? Let's see if she makes it in. But one of the things that, let's see if we can have her come back in.
Thanks everyone for bearing with us and our technical
absolutely.
Difficulties. Appreciate it. We definitely want Coach Q to be a part of this.
Yeah, it looks like she's trying to come back in.
Yeah.
I don't hear her yet, but it looks like she's trying to come back in. But what I wanted to
her either.
I don't see her either.
Okay.
She asked to come back in, and I invited her back in. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was how like attracts like, right? Mm-hmm. So gratitude is a very high emotion. And so when you're up here in a state of gratitude, other things will start to raise up to be attracted to you that are of those higher vibrations. And if you're down here in the dumps, and we've all been there, and you're thinking and feeling low, they say that, what else can go wrong, right? Because, you're attracting those things that match those lower vibrations. And so each emotion actually has a particular frequency, and they're not good or bad. You guys, all emotions are part of the human experience. And one of the problems that we have in our culture is ignoring what we consider the dark emotions, right? All of our emotions are part of our human experience. So it's not about not honoring and processing those emotions, but it's about recognizing when you are in a particular state of being, in a particular emotional state, recognize that you're just going to get more of that, because your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts are big attractors. It's a great big magnet. Hi, Coach Q. Did you make it back in? Oh, she's trying. I can see you're trying to talk. And I'll give an example of this. What you put out there, you get back. I always like to give real life examples for people. So 4.5 years ago, my mom passed away. I was her end of life caregiver. So was everybody in my family. We all worked around the clock to be around my mom. But because I work out of my home, so I was able to leave and actually go spend time with her. So after mom's passing, there was a lot of grief. And grieving is natural and normal, and it's a wonderful way of saying goodbye. It's an emotion of transition. But I was also, as an energy wellness coach, I was aware that, okay, I've been writing this grief for a really long time, right? And so one week I tried to do my meditation in the morning, was writing in my gratitude journal, right? Like, was trying to be grateful, trying to raise my vibration. I was trying to say some positive about things, trying to raise my vibration. And I thought to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch a comedy because that'll flip my brain over and laugh, right? So I jump online and I start a movie, and it's a movie about two older women that I think take the insurance money from maybe a husband's death, and they decide to make a trip around the world. I'm trying to even remember. I think it starred, I can't even think of the names now who it starred, but it was funny, right? It was comedy. These two older women are getting on planes and they're going around the world. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to laugh. This is a comedy. Well, it ends up being that the one woman that was on this trip was dying of cancer. And the reason that she went on the trip was because she didn't tell her friend at the time, was because she knew she was dying and didn't have much time to live. And I'm thinking to myself, even though my intention was to laugh and get out of my grief, my underlying grief was so strong and so powerful that even with my intention to watch a comedy for laughter, I ended up watching a show about a woman dying of cancer. So I turn it off. I don't even finish the show because I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not watching a sad scene. So I turn that off. This is all in the same night. So I'm literally in this section of Netflix that says comedies, right? And I click on another comedy. And same thing. I get into it. It's a couple of older people talking. There's this great big joke. There's a couple of bantering back and forth. And then the man goes home to his wife who is dying of cancer. And I'm like, oh my God. So my whole point in sharing that is sometimes it takes a while to move that vibration. So many times when I coach people about their thoughts and their feelings, and I say, listen, your thoughts and your feelings send out this frequency and you get back what you put out. And so they'll tell me, darn it, I was thinking happy thoughts. I was in a good mood. I was even listening to a good song and I spilled coffee on myself and I got a flat tire and, my credit cards got stolen or whatever it is. I want you to know that emotions run deep. And oftentimes, if you've got some that are still unprocessed, that are still down there churning, like my grief was, for my mom who had passed, even though my intention was to laugh and comedy, I still hadn't processed all my grief. And so the universe is like, we're going to match you up with where you are. And I was still getting that. So I want to share that story so that people don't get disappointed. They're like, I spent all day long having happy thoughts. Why the hell did I have a flat tire on my drive home today? And it's because it takes a little while to kind of shift that entire vibrational field. But it does start with your thoughts, and you should pat yourself on the back for having them and pat yourself on the back for continuing to do them as well. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that story. What about some tips to if you're feeling down in the dumps, like what are ways that we can kind of raise that vibration even just a little bit so we can have a new platform from which to jump? What do you like to do?
Gosh, I have so many things, and I'm sure that you do as well. As a Reiki healer, honestly, Reiki is an excellent, getting somebody to help move your energy, stuck energy in the body. So Reiki, massage, dancing. I know this is crazy. Put on a song that just lights you up and dance. Yeah. You will be surprised how quickly music can transform the vibration of a room.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love breathing. breathing is very, very, breathing, helping breathe in and then, breathing out. Sometimes screaming and yelling. I always tell people, man, you got to let it out if you just want to, but reach out to people. I think people, make sure that you vet your person first, though. I'll give you an example. My mom's grief. Every time I called my sister, every time I called my brothers, every time I called people that were also grieving the loss of their mother, because their mother was my mother, we ended up both on the phone, just talking about how much we miss mom and, mom's demise. And, we just couldn't help but, pick those apart. And then my husband insisted that I go on a little trip with a couple of high school friends. This is right after my mom passed away. But these high school friends knew my mom because they went to high school with me and they knew of my mother, but they weren't holding the grief of losing a mom like my siblings were. And that weekend I spent with my two girlfriends from high school completely got me out of the funk, because every conversation wasn't, if they did have a conversation or a memory about my mother, it wasn't a sad memory. It was, oh my God, do you remember the time when we got in late and your mom was standing at the door and, they made me laugh and remember my mom in this vibrant state that I had kind of forgotten about, so reach out to people. They can change your vibration, but just make sure that they're in a place to do so, if you're going to do that as well. Courtney, go ahead. What are some of your favorites?
One of my favorites. So when I was going through cancer treatment and moving and a breakup, I was so distraught. And one of the things I would do is I would go to my bed and I would put my face in my pillow and I would scream and I would kick and I would throw my arms and I would have a full-fledged tantrum until I started laughing at myself. And it felt so good to just like cry until I just started laughing. And that helped me immensely. It was a major pressure relief and it upped my vibe a little bit. And I was able to calm down and kind of see through the mist again.
Yeah.
Another one that I practice to this day is a gratitude journal. I like to write before, like I'm in bed. I've got my journal right on my nightstand next to my bed. And I write down how I'm feeling. And then I write down what I'm grateful for the day. And then I write down again how I'm feeling, and it changes. And that just feels good. And it's a great send off into sleep. I feel like my dreams are sweeter when I do that. I mean, not always. There are things that my brain is going to work out, but I think it sets me up for a better night.
We talk about it all the time, but I cannot put enough emphasis on a gratitude journal or a gratitude practice. Even if you think I'm not the type of person to write or I'm not the type of person to do that, when you crawl into bed at night and you pull those covers up to your chin, you can literally just say, what went well today? What went well today? And kind of say it out loud. Well, when I was standing in line at the grocery store, I was the first one in and out. Like that went well today. Sometimes we have to just stop and retrain our brain to go back to those things. So I would probably say gratitude practice, regardless of whether it's a journal or whatever you want to do, saying them out loud. Gratitude it's a vibration changer. It is. It's energy medicine in and of itself, and anybody can do it.
And you can do it all day long. I mean, I'm thankful for this hot tea I have this morning. I'm thankful for the car that I drive. I'm thankful for this fresh air. It could be anything. And you could just throughout your day, look around the room. What are you thankful for? Oh, I'm thankful for that beautiful piece of art on the wall that my mom gave to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that just little minuscule practices. Maybe if you get one or two done in a day, great. That's a shift.
It is. I love the practice of ending your night with the question, what went well today? Because I can think about when I was taking care of mom and it was, it could be very, very sad. Mom's mom's end of life was not very pretty. And even then, I can look back and say, what went well today? And I can think about the fact that, one of my relatives came over and just gave me a moment to breathe. You know what I mean? Or I had a girlfriend stop by and she had iced tea. I know that sounds silly, but she's like, I heard you were here and I was passing through town and I know you like iced tea. I mean, just to be able to reach outside of where you are because the focus was, so heavy. What went well today? I challenge everybody when you crawl into bed tonight, if you have a gratitude practice, keep doing it. If you don't have a gratitude practice and you don't have a journal and you don't have a pen, and a lot of people are uncomfortable writing. I'm not. I love to write. I think there's something really powerful about getting out of your head, out of your body, and onto some physical expression. I think it's huge. But just pull the covers up and say, what went well today? And then just scan your entire day. And I promise you, you will find something that went well today. Even if the only thing that went well today is that you're still standing at the end of the day. Seriously. I mean, sometimes we take for granted, how powerful it is that we live in this present. So those are two great things, to raise your energy. I do love crystals and stones. I am wearing some right now. I believe that each crystal and stone has very powerful, unique vibrations. You can get online, you can buy a book on different vibrations for different stones. There's stones for relationships and stones for wealth and stones for grieving and stones, for growth and prosperity. As crazy as it sounds, drinking water. As an energy wellness coach, I cannot tell you enough that your body is energy and the best conduit for energy is water, right? I mean, we literally have electric stations that are, hydropowered, right? Your body is the same way. Your body is hydropowered. So the more you stay hydrated with water, the more energy doesn't get stuck and helps flow through your body. That's a really big thing to do is stay hydrated. It seems like a small thing, but it really does affect the way energy flows through your body.
Yes, definitely. And
what
salt water, being in the ocean on salt water is huge for healing because you've got the ions. And when you actually get into the water, that's like the ultimate earthing with that salt water and the conduit of the energy towards the earth to you. And you're just floating there. It's just, it's immensely healing on so many levels.
And you talked about, oh yeah, waterfalls. Mm-hmm. You are in such a wonderful place where you have access to nature. And, a lot of people are, what the hell is earthing? You've got somebody listening to this podcast. What the hell is grounding? And what the hell is earthing? And why would I want to do either one of those things? Right. Right. Some quick examples are literally just going outside and breathing the fresh air. If you can get your bare feet on the earth, it can be a very grounding exercise. But if you can't, then you can literally visualize yourself planted on the earth. Courtney mentioned laying down on the earth. But if you're saying to you're listening to this going, girl, I live in the city and there is concrete for miles and miles and miles to come. You can bring those types of grounding things into your home. You can do it with plants. You can actually buy earthing or grounding mats. You can take an Epsom salt bath that has similar properties to the ocean, obviously not the same, but there are some small tricks of the trade that you can do. You can hug yourself. Every episode, you're going to hear me talk about hugging yourself. It's just such a good thing to do. It just feels so good. But yeah, I love Courtney's thing about just throwing a fit. We kind of get in trouble for expressing bad emotions. And so we keep them clammed up inside. Right. And yeah, we need to yell, cuss, spit, scream, Yeah.
Get out that emotional response, like move it through your body.
Yes.
Like, even when I'm driving and the roads here, I'll tell you, they are up and down and super curvy and super narrow. And there really isn't attention to whose lane is who. And we drive on the left-hand side. And, I've had a couple of like little shocks, like, oh my gosh, I will for the next few minutes of my trip down the road, I will literally shake my body as I'm driving. And if it's just my head, just to get that response, that adrenaline, move it through the body.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that helps like resolve that response. And then I'm not holding on to it anymore. It's gone. It's resolved.
Yeah.
And it feels so much better.
Yes.
To do
Shake like a duck.
Use
Get it off.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And like I said, a lot of people can do that with music. My daughter, I always say that she does what's called driving therapy. We joke about it, but she'll be like, Mom, I'm going for a drive. And I know what she's going to do. She's going to get in the car. She's going to listen to music that is going to be wherever she is. You know, it might be music to pump her up. It might be music to help her process, but she will literally just go around and drive listening to music, allowing herself to feel the vibration, and it will change her mood. You know, sometimes music is about processing something sad. So you might listen to 2 or 3 songs and just cry your eyes out. Or sometimes it's about getting yourself pumped up, and you might listen to 2 or 3 songs that get you pumped up. But the value of music is huge. It has a literal vibration. And so, you know, don't hesitate to do that. And dancing, you know, shaking, dancing. I love the idea that you threw such a fit that you ended up laughing at yourself. You know what I mean? I love that. Like you threw such a tantrum that it ended up cracking you up. Like, you know, it just, absolutely. You know, I love that.
It was great. I mean, and you just get the whole body into it. The hands going, the arms going, the feet kicking, and just like screaming. And it is. Yeah. It was so cathartic.
And the other thing I will tell you is that the people in your life bring energy into your life. So pay attention to who you're spending your time with.
I couldn't agree more.
I, you know, people are like, I can't get rid of my family. That's illegal, you know, but I always say, you know, like attracts like, right? So when you walk into a room and there's a down vibration, you have 2 choices. You can either be the higher vibration that raises that person up, or you're going to raise down to match their vibration. And if you're not strong enough to raise that person up, then make an excuse to leave the room. Go read a book. Go, you know, do work somewhere else. Go, you know, with access to our phones, you know, watch a movie or something somewhere else. But pay attention to the people that surround you. You know, chronic complainers usually attract chronic complainers. Happy people usually attract happy people. You know, when you walk into a room, you know, try to find those people that are going to help you raise your vibration up and or process the emotions that you need to process. And it is okay to process emotions as well. But your thoughts, your feelings, all of them are energy, and all of them create a magnetic field around you that creates what you bring into your life. So definitely safeguard your thoughts. They're not random, and they do have a lot of power. And I don't think we give enough credence to that.
Yeah, agreed. And if you find yourself in a situation, if you're surrounded by people that aren't matching your vibration, if you struggle with family relations, this is a time to start thinking about what boundaries that you want to set.
Yes.
And these aren't rules for somebody else to follow. These are your boundaries. If you do this, I will do this. And it makes it all about you. And I know there's a lot of talk online right now about boundaries, but there's something to be said because you are taking your energy and your life in your hands, and you can make the changes that are best for you. And it doesn't matter what they think, you know, you are protecting you. Yeah. And that is absolutely okay.
I love that. You know, there's a lot of talk about boundaries, and sometimes people think that, you know, I can't say them out loud. And oftentimes you don't have to. They can just be things that you've said in your head and you've thought to yourself, you know what, the next time I'm in that situation, here's my boundary. You know what I mean? I will let this go this far, and then I'm going to shift the conversation, or I'm going to find a reason to get off the phone or whatever. And you don't have to confront that person, right? Sometimes when we talk about setting boundaries, people are afraid, oh my God, it means I have to confront, you know, the person that I want. And the boundary can be something in your head, and it's honoring you and where you are, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Brene Brown is one of my favorite people to read. She is fantastic. She's an author. She is a emotion researcher. She's out of Texas. Some of her books, any other time I could think of the names of her books. One of my favorite Brene Brown books is, oh my gosh, Dare to Lead. Dare to Lead is one of my favorite, but she's written tons, and she's an emotion researcher, and she's phenomenal. If you've not heard of Brene Brown, look her up if you ever want to learn about emotions and how they affect us and stuff like that. But she said that she was doing research on the people that are the most compassionate, And she was doing all this research because she wanted to find out, where does that come from? Where do compassionate people, what makes a compassionate person? And she was shocked at the data, because when she does research, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of data. It's not just an interview with one person. And after collecting thousands of pieces of data about what makes a person compassionate, she thought it might be maybe their religious upbringing. Maybe it was just their, maybe it's just their parenting, how their parents were how they were going to be. Maybe it was because they had happy jobs. Maybe it was because they had good marriages or happy relationships. Maybe it was because they had a healthy body. She was sure it was going to be all of this stuff. You know what the number one thing was that created a compassionate person? Was people who set and kept boundaries. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
People who set and kept boundaries.
Yeah.
Because when you're not overextending yourself and something comes up, you have the energy to be compassionate, to other people, because you haven't overextended yourself because you've set and kept the boundary. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a really, really good point. And it helps protect our energy, because we have an energy field, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Now the next step is getting this taught in schools.
Yeah.
Starting in kindergarten.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
Amazing. Imagine where we would be as a race.
Yeah. As a race, as a culture. Well, and even in some of the cultures where they understand energy and movement, they're doing Tai Chi in the middle of the town square, right? They're understanding, they're outside. If you ever watched it, they're outside in China doing Tai Chi and Qigong and different types of energy modalities where they're connecting to the earth, connecting to each other, moving their bodies to allow flow. Movement is a great way to get energy to flow through your body. And we think of exercise, but it can be anything. It can be dance, moving, stretching, shaking, throwing a tantrum in your bed. There's lots of things that we can do. So anyway, we have come to about an hour long, and I want to apologize to Coach Q. I was so ready to hear her thoughts.
Me too.
Yeah, she popped back in and we tried to connect her, and I don't know if she had a bad internet connection or what. So we are going to have her back. We're going to invite her back and make sure that she's able to weigh in the next time we coaches all get together. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining us on the Holistic Health Front podcast. And Courtney, is there anything else that we want to add before we decide to call it a night?
I think this has been such a fun conversation. I'm so glad that we're talking about this. I think
me too.
Woo-woo is becoming a little bit more mainstream every single day. And I think that's wonderful, because there's so much magic in the ether that we have yet to discover. So I'm glad that this is coming out. I am grateful for that. I'll be writing that in my gratitude journal this evening.
Yeah. Me too. And I think we need to go a little further, because I think this is the first time we've talked about energy. And I can think of so many incidents and so many stories that I could tell, that I think I'm holding back a little bit, you know what I mean? For fear that it won't be received as well, because some of the stuff that I've experienced in energy medicine is way out there, and I think people are ready to hear that. So I think we should do this again, invite more people on, and just kind of share how we're all connected. I
love it. We can call it Woo Woo Part 2.
Woo Woo Part 2. See, we've already got it titled. So, all right, everybody. You can find us at Powerful People Community Facebook group if you ever want to jump online and weigh in on what we're doing or give us suggestions about what you'd like to hear us talk about, that's our Facebook group called Powerful People Community. But we are the Holistic Health Front Podcast, health coaches getting together and literally just talking about things that we've experienced in our lives. And we hope that it enriches your life in some way, shape, or form. Have a blessed night. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.